Alright guys, what's up? It's Finn here once again, and we're going to be reading the rest of Count the Ways. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. If I don't have time to finish Count the Ways today, then I'll do it tomorrow, and also I'll be doing a Toy Bonnie and Friends video. So, let's continue from where we were. If I remember correctly, we were... Oh yeah, we were at the pub where Grandpa asked Millie if it was a boy or a girl she met at school. So let's do this. All right. Millie didn't like Grandpa's insinuating tone. Well, not that it matters, but it happens to be a boy. Oh wait, that was Millie talking now. Well, not that it matters, but it happened to be a boy. Don't try to turn it into some kind of love story, though. We just had a decent conversation, is all. A decent conversation is something, especially these days. Most people your age won't look up from their phones long enough to say as much as, "How do you do?" Grandpa said. Not to put the cart before the horse, but I met your grandma when I was just a little older than you are now. So what? Now you have me engaged to this guy I just met, Grandpa, I'm 14. Grandpa laughed. You're right that you're much too young to be engaged. And your grandma and I didn't get engaged when we were teenagers either. But we were high school sweethearts. And then we went to the same college. We got engaged our senior years of college and married in June right after we graduated. He smiled. And it all started with a good conversation at lunch, like you had today, so you never know. Slow down, old man, Millie said, fighting off a smile. Grandpa's eyes went soft and misty. I'm just reminiscing. I wish you could have known your grandma, Millie. She was really something special, and to lose her when she wasn't even 40, it's like Annabelle Lee. The Poe poem? Grandpa asked. It was many and many a year ago. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea. Yes, I guess it was something like that. You know Poe? Millie asked. It was weird to ask him to recite one of her favorite poems. Grandpa was a math person. She didn't expect him to know anything about poetry. Believe it or not, I'm a pretty literate old dude. I like Poe and a lot of other writers too. I know you like Poe because he's dark and spooky. It's easy to romanticize death when you're young and it's too far away. But Poe didn't write about death because he thought it was romantic. He wrote about it because he lost so many of the people he loved. You never experienced that kind of loss, Millie. It changed you. He blinked hard. You know, for years after she died, friends were always trying to fix me up with other women, but it never worked. She was the only one for me. Millie had never really thought about Grandpa's feelings before. How he must have felt when Grandma got sick and died. How lonely he must have been after she was gone. How he might still be lonely now. That must have been hard, she said. Losing Grandma? Grandpa nodded. It was. I still miss her every day. Well, thanks for the dinner, Millie said. I guess I'm. I guess I'd better get started. I guess I better get started. I'd better get started on my homework. Without being asked, Grandpa said, smiling. This is certainly a special, day. In her room, Millie didn't think of death. She thought of Dylan. She thought about what Grandpa had said about Grandma when she recited Annabel Lee in her head this time. It seemed like a poem about love instead of a poem about death. What? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think we're back to Funtime Freddy and Millie. So let's do this. Silly Millie. For someone who doesn't want to die, you sure spent a lot of time talking about it. The voice surrounding her said. But that's the way of things. But that's the way of things, isn't it? Talk is all. Talk is always easier than action. I think, Millie said, sniffling. That's when I said I wanted to die. What I really wanted was to escape. I didn't want death. I just wanted my life to be different. Oh, oh, but is that really taking? But that really takes action, doesn't it? The voice said. Changing a life for the better, especially when the world is such a mean, rotten place. It's much easier and ultimately much more satisfying just to snuff it out. Which brings me to my second set of options. Much more interesting ones. These are quick and easy for you, for the most part. But they require a little more effort from me. I'm not complaining though. There's nothing I like more than a good challenge to relieve my boredom. Say, you like Dracula, don't you? Millie could barely find her voice to answer. Why? Are you going to bite my neck? Now, how would I do that with you in my belly, silly girl? I know that you're a Dracula fan. The kids at school call you Dracula's daughter, don't they? Well, what you might not know is that the character of Dracula was inspired by a real person. Oh, my throat, guys. I'm gonna lose it by doing this Funtime Freddy voice. A prince named Vlad Dracula, but he's better known by his nickname, Vlad the Impaler. Millie's insides seemed to turn to jelly. Vlad killed thousands of his enemies, but his crowning achievement was creating a forest of the impaled, where thousands of his victims, men, women, and children, were skewered through stakes driven into the ground. Now, I'm no prince, and I can't aspire to that level of achievement, but no little old impaling can't be that hard, can it? I can just take one of my metal rods and dive it through my body cavity, and it will go straight through you and out the other side. If the spike goes through your vital organs, death comes quickly. There we go. If it doesn't, there can be some hours of bleeding and suffering. The people who walked through the forest of the impaled talked about the moaning and gasping of the victims. so impaling. One might say other deaths impale in comparison. The voice's tone was cheery. It can work quickly or slowly, but the result is the same in the end. Like I said, win-win. No, Millie whispered. She wanted her mom and dad. She wanted her grandpa. They would help her if they only knew. She'd even settle for goofy Uncle Rob and Auntie Sherry as long as they would come to her rescue. She would even put on a Christmas sweater if it made them happy. Ugh. Flashback. Millie sat at her table in the cafeteria expectantly. She had taken special care with her appearance this morning, choosing a lacy black top and a jet Victorian mourning necklace from her small collection. Her face powder enhanced her pallor, and her black eyeliner had the perfect cat-like effect. As minutes passed, she started to worry. What if Dylan didn't show up? What if she had gotten all dressed up for nothing? What if she didn't always suspected? Life offered no possibility of pleasure or happiness. But then there he was, with his leather jacket and fire engine red hair and shiny silver earrings. Hey, Millie said, trying not to sound like she was too happy to see him. Hey, he said, setting his tray on the table and sitting across from her. I'd warn you something. Millie's heart pounded with excitement. She hoped she didn't show up. She hoped she didn't show it. He reached into the pocket of his leather jacket and pulled out a worn paperback book. H.P. Lovecraft, he said. I was telling you about him yesterday. I remember, Millie said, taking the book. The Call of Cthulhu and Other Stories. Did I say that right? Cthulhu? Who knows? Dylan said. H.P. Lovecraft made it up, and he's dead. H.P. Lovecraft made it up, and he's dead. So we can't ask him. You can keep the book. I got a copy in hardcover for my birthday. He grinned. My parents are cool. They don't mind that I like weird stuff. Thanks. She felt a little smile creeping up on her. She slipped the book into her bag. She would certainly read the book, but it wasn't the book itself that was making her feel all smiley. It was that Dylan had thought of her. Ooh! While he was at home, not in her presence, he had thought of her, found the book, put it in his jacket pocket, and remembered to give it to her. In her experience, boys weren't usually this thoughtful. After dinner, in her room, Millie started reading the H.P. Lovecraft book. Dylan was right. It was weirder than Poe stuff, even, and scary in a way that made it feel like spiders were crawling beneath her skin. But she loved it. It was the perfect gift for Dylan to give her. Millie wasn't a flowers and candy kind of girl. After she read a couple stories, she opened her laptop. Instead of googling poems about death, she searched for poems about love. Oh, so I see what's going on, guys. She's changing. She's not becoming a girl. She's not becoming a goth girl anymore. Instead, she's becoming a normal girl. Interesting. She found the famous one by Elizabeth Barrett Browning that began, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways." It's the name of the story, guys. Count the ways. She had read the poem before and thought of it just as pretty words, but now she could appreciate the feelings being the word strong feelings for the rare person who truly understood you and whom you understood in return. She took out her black leather journal, chewed on her pen, and thought. Finally, she wrote, and here's the poem right now, guys. You clipped away the black thorny vines that twisted around my wounded heart, so it could beat and feel relief from pain. You are the gardener who wakes the plants from the gray chilly death of winter, so that they can blossom again like my heart, a slow blooming blood red rose. Interesting. She read the poem back to herself and sighed with satisfaction. Her mood only darkened slightly when she set her journal aside and start on her homework. Okay, we're back to fun time. Okay. No, pity. I always think impaling was a certain dramatic flair. Perhaps something with a little more zing. Electrocution is always an efficient and effective option. Did you know that the idea of the electric chair was developed in the 1800s by a dentist named Alfred P. Southwick? He came up with the idea of an electric chair based on his dental chair. That's not exactly comforting to people with dental phobias. Now, is it? I don't have a chair to strap you into, but I do have the power to shoot a series of strong electrical currents through my body cavity. If the current zaps your heart or brain, you'll die quickly. If it doesn't, you'll have some nasty burns, and your heart will go into vibration, which will generally kill you. Hold on, guys. Okay. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right, let's continue. All right. If it doesn't, you'll have some nasty burns, and your heart will go into fibrillation, which will generally kill you if you don't have help. And I think we've already established that you don't have anyone here to help you. Help was a word Millie wanted desperately to scream, but she knew it was a waste of energy she needed to conserve if she had any hope of survival. So, what do you think, Cupcake? Electrocution? You'd be shocked at how effective it is. An electrifyingly good time. Another chuckle. Millie had once experienced a shock unplugging a hairdryer from a wall socket in a badly wired hotel room. She had felt the electrical tear painfully up up her arm, and for a few moments was as out of breath as if someone had punched her in the stomach. She didn't want to think about how an electric current strong enough to kill her would feel. A good time for you, a good time for you, but not for me, she said. Flashback. One Sunday afternoon, when most other kids were at the mall or the movies or hanging out at one another's houses, Millie walked downtown to the public library. It was about a 20-minute walk, so the walk there and back wasn't with an hour or two, was browsing and reading sandwiched in between. It was a pleasant way to spend a Saturday afternoon in solitude. Today she roamed the library stacks, looking for the suitably dark reading material. She had finished The Call of Cthulhu and was disappointed that there weren't any more books by Lovecraft on the shelves. Hey, a voice called behind her. She gasped and jumped, but then saw it was Dylan. I didn't mean to startle you, he said. Did you read that Lovecraft book? Millie couldn't believe the stars had aligned in such that she had run into Dylan outside of school. Yes, I loved it. I was kind of hoping they'd have more stuff by him here. Dylan said. I bet I can pick something else you'd like. Give me a sec. With a thoughtful expression, he scanned the shelves, then pulled out a thin book with a black cover and handed it to her. The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson, she read. Yep, you'll love her. It's the perfect book to continue your classic horror pursuits. Eh? He said. I was reading at that table over there until I saw you. If you want to sit there and read too, you can. Okay, Millie worked hard not to show how happy this invitation made her. I've got to admit, you've got an ulterior motive I've got to admit, I've got an ulterior motive inviting you, Dylan said. I want to see the look on your face once you finish reading the first short story in that book. They sat at a table across from each other and read in companionable silence. Millie loved talking with Dylan, but being quiet with him was nice too. She read The Lottery with a growing feeling of suspense, and when she got to the end, Dylan laughed. You're reading with your mouth hanging open, he said. It's the ultimate surprise ending, isn't it? It really is. Say, Dylan said, I was thinking that after I check out my books, I might have a cup of tea at the cafe next door. Would you like to do that too? I mean, you don't have to drink tea just because I do. You can have coffee or hot chocolate. Tea sounds nice, Millie said. This afternoon it was turning out to be nice, surprisingly so. Millie had passed you and me coffee and tea hundreds of times, but had never gone inside. It was a pleasant place with exposed brick walls displaying paintings by local artists. Sitting with Dylan over their steaming cups, Millie said, I think I might like to be a librarian someday. She had never told anyone this before. She'd always been afraid of getting laughed at. That would be cool, Dylan said. You love books. I love books, and I love quiet, Millie said, sipping her Earl Grey tea. You should totally dress in a goth librarian style too, Dylan said. You could put your hair up and wear your jet jewelry and a black Victorian dress and those old fashioned glasses that just clip onto your nose. What are they called? pince-nez? Dylan grinned. Yeah, those. And when you dress like that, you shush people in the library. It'll scare the living daylights out of them. Millie laughed and had to admit it felt good. School days were better when she knew she'd had lunch with Dylan. She could spend the morning looking forward to seeing him, and the afternoon thinking about what they'd said to each other. Sometimes she felt a little silly for spending so much time thinking about a boy, but Dylan just wasn't just any ordinary boy. Today, when she got home from school, her grandpa met her in the in the in the cultured living room. I thought we might go to the school holiday bazaar tonight, he said. Instead of his usual cardigan, he was wearing an ugly green pullover sweater decorated with creepy smiling Christmas trees. The holiday bazaar is stupid, Millie rolled her eyes. Just a bunch of people selling ugly Christmas tree ornaments made out of popsicle sticks. Oh, I always thought the bazaar was kind of fun when I was a teacher. This year there's a chili supper, and you can choose between meat and vegetarian chili, and there's an all-you-can-eat cookie